I was never the type to believe in evil. Not until the day my own sister pushed me off a cliff. The sun had just begun to set over the hills, painting the sky a soft gold. We were standing at the edge of the family estate, where wildflowers danced. In the wind and memories of our childhood lingered in the air. I thought she had called me there to talk, maybe to apologize for the months of tension between us. But instead, her voice was calm, cold, and final when she said, "You don't deserve it, any of it." Then, before I could understand what was happening, I felt her hands on my back, and then nothing, just the sound of wind rushing past my ears as my body plunged into the unknown. My name is Leah, and up until that moment, I thought I was part of a family. Flawed maybe, but still, a family. I never imagined that the sister I grew up sharing secrets and clothes with, Sarah, would see me as an enemy. All for a pile of inheritance papers. I should have died that day, but fate, or maybe something more powerful, had other plans. I woke up in a strange room, the scent of antiseptic sharp in the air, soft beeping from machines echoing in the silence. For a moment, I thought I was in a hospital, but then I saw the clean, luxurious interior, the wall-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city skyline, and the tall, serious-looking man standing in the corner with his back to me. That's when I met him, Zayan Khan, a name that made headlines, the CEO of one of the biggest corporations in the city, ruthless in business, mysterious in person, and rarely seen with anyone. Why he had rescued me, I didn't know yet. All I knew was that someone had found me broken and bleeding at the bottom of that cliff, and instead of leaving me to fate, they brought me here. He turned slowly, and for a moment, I couldn't read his expression. "You're awake," he said, his voice calm but distant. How did I get here?" I asked, my throat dry, my body aching with every breath. "I was hiking nearby. Found you barely breathing," he replied. "You're lucky to be alive, but luck had nothing to do with it. I wasn't supposed to survive. That fall should have ended me." And I realized then, Sarah wasn't just angry. She was desperate. Desperate. Enough to try to erase me from her path completely. As the days passed, I began to recover slowly. Zayan didn't talk much. He was always working, always on his phone or laptop. Yet somehow he made sure I had everything I needed: clothes, food, a quiet space to heal. He didn't ask about what had happened. Not at first. But he watched, observed. I could feel it. And when I finally told him the truth, that my sister had tried to kill me for our father's inheritance, I expected him to step back, to tell me it was a family matter, and he didn't want to be involved. But instead, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Then it's time you stop letting them win." That's when everything changed. You see, before the fall, I was just the quiet one, the overlooked daughter, the one who didn't fight back. My father had built an empire, but he never taught me how to protect it. That was Sarah's world. Boardrooms, lawyers, backroom deals. She had always been the favorite, the one people took seriously. And me? I was just there. Until I became a threat, Zayn offered me something no one else had. Support, resources, a chance to rebuild, but more importantly, he gave me space to find my strength. I started learning everything I had once been kept away from. Contracts, company shares, family assets. I studied late into the night, asked questions no one expected me to ask, and slowly, piece by piece, I began to uncover the truth. Sarah hadn't acted alone. There were people inside the family business, lawyers, advisors, even an uncle who had helped her manipulate the will, hide my father's real wishes, and erase me from the equation completely. They thought I was gone. They thought I'd never wake up, never come back, and they were wrong. Zion and I didn't become friends exactly. He wasn't warm or open, but he respected what I'd been through. And slowly, a quiet understanding formed between us. He'd lost people too once. He knew what betrayal looked like, what it felt like to stand alone. But revenge wasn't about anger anymore. It wasn't even about the inheritance. It was about justice, about taking back what was mine and making sure no one else would ever suffer the way I had. Now I'm back, and no one knows I survived. Not Sarah, not the people who helped her, not the world that watched her take over everything my father had built, smiling as if she earned it. But I'm here, watching from the shadows, preparing every move like pieces on a chessboard. This isn't just about inheritance anymore. It's about truth, power, and letting the people who tried to bury me realize they only planted a seed. The calm before the storm is over. Now the real story begins, and this time, I'm not the one who's going to fall. 3 weeks had passed since the world believed I disappeared forever. 3 weeks since I was reborn, not as the fragile girl everyone ignored, but as the woman who was ready to take everything back. But before I could move forward, I had to revisit the past and understand how it all began. My father, Ayan Malik, had built his empire from scratch. He was known for his sharp instincts and unwavering discipline. But at home, he was softer, especially with Sarah. She was always the charming one, the perfect daughter in everyone's eyes. I used to think she deserved the praise. She was smart, confident, the kind of person who always knew what to say. But behind those smiles, she was calculating. I just didn't see it then. When our mother died, something in Sarah changed. Maybe she felt abandoned. Maybe she thought she had to fight for everything after that. But instead of growing closer, we drifted apart. I focused on writing, art, simple things. She stayed glued to boardrooms and balance sheets. And slowly, she started building her circle. Lawyers, managers, even a few journalists who helped shape her perfect public image. Meanwhile, I was the forgotten daughter, barely mentioned in interviews or family events. When Dad passed away suddenly, we were both shattered. But while I was grieving, Sarah was moving pieces. I remember the way she hugged me at the funeral, tears in her eyes, whispering, "We'll get through this together." I believed her. I didn't see that she had already started shifting assets, reworking the will, and forging signatures. Everything she needed to make sure I had nothing. I didn't fight her. I didn't know how. But now, with Zayan's help, I had started collecting the evidence. Secret bank accounts, property transfers, signed documents that didn't match my father's real handwriting, hidden emails. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a full-blown conspiracy. And the worst part, one of my father's oldest friends, Uncle Farouk, had been helping her cover it all up. Meanwhile, Zayan had become more than just a silent supporter. He started introducing me to people who could help. Lawyers who didn't answer to my family, private investigators, even a retired judge who used to work with my father. These weren't just professionals. They were people who still believed in doing what was right, people who knew what it meant to stand up against powerful families. But something else was changing too. Zayan and I were spending more time together. We weren't just planning strategies anymore. We started having late-night conversations about our pasts, our fears, our mistakes. He had once been engaged, years ago, to someone who left him for power and status. Since then, he had built walls around himself, cold, tall walls. But little by little, those walls were cracking, and yet I couldn't afford to lose focus. Sarah was preparing for the grand launch of the Malik Foundation. a charity built in my father's name. It was meant to be her way of sealing her image as the loyal daughter, the new face of the legacy. Everyone who mattered would be there. Investors, media, politicians. She was going to announce new projects, funding, and most importantly, claim full legal control over the company. That's when I knew that event was my moment. If I wanted to expose her, it had to be then, but things weren't going to be that simple. A week before the event, I received a message. No sender, just a simple warning typed in all caps. Stop while you still can. Zayn took it seriously. He increased security, made sure I never went anywhere alone, and tracked the source of the message. But whoever sent it was careful, clean. It meant one thing. Someone inside Sarah's circle knew I was alive, and they were scared. The pressure was building. I could feel it in every breath I took. Each night, I replayed that moment on the cliff. Her eyes, her voice, the silence after the push, and now I was about to walk straight into her world again. But this time, she wouldn't be the one with the power. What Sarah didn't know was that I had a copy of the original will, the real one. My father had left it with someone he trusted outside the family, a person he believed Sarah could never reach. And now, that person had given it to me, along with a voice recording of my father, speaking about his wishes. That recording alone could change everything. Still, part of me wondered, was I ready? To walk back into a room full of people who thought I was dead, to face my sister, knowing what she had done. What if she smiled? What if she cried? What if she pretended again, just like before? The day of the event arrived. I wore a simple white dress. Not to stand out, but to feel grounded, clean, strong. Zayan offered to come with me, but I told him no. This part, I had to do alone. As I stepped out of the car and walked toward the towering glass building, I saw the posters, Sarah's face, everywhere, glowing, confident, untouchable. Security guards stood at the entrance, nodding politely to the guests. No one looked twice at me until I reached the door. The moment the glass doors opened and I stepped inside, I felt the eyes turning, whispers, gasps, and then silence. Sarah was on stage, smiling mid-sentence, holding a mic. She froze. Our eyes met across the crowd. Her lips parted slightly. Shock, panic, and then quickly, that fake smile returned. "Leah," she said into the mic, trying to stay calm. "Is that you?" I didn't say a word. Not yet. The storm had arrived, and I was the one bringing it. The room was so quiet, you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. Dozens of people turned to look at me, their eyes wide with disbelief. Some whispered to each other. Some stared like they were seeing a ghost. But I wasn't here for their reactions. I was here for the truth. Sarah took a shaky step forward, still holding the mic. Her voice cracked slightly as she spoke. "Leah, we all thought you were gone." I walked slowly toward the stage, eyes never leaving hers. She kept her smile fixed, but I saw the way her hands trembled. I wasn't supposed to be here. Not today, not ever. But I was done letting her control the story. "I know what you did, Sarah," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You pushed me off that cliff. You tried to kill me for money, but I survived. And I've come back with everything," gasps. Filled the room. Cameras turned in my direction. Her face fell. The fake smile finally dropped. For the first time, she looked exactly like what she was. Cornered. She tried to laugh it off. "This is ridiculous. Clearly she's been through something traumatic. She doesn't know what she's saying." I raised my phone and pressed Play. The room echoed with my father's voice. Calm, steady, and crystal clear. If anything happens to me, if Sarah tries to change my will or harm her sister, you know where the real one is. Leah is the rightful heir to half of everything, not because of what she does for the company, but because of who she is. She's honest. She's kind. She's the part of this family that still has a heart. A wave of silence swept over the hall. All eyes turned to Sarah again. Her mask was gone now. She looked pale, confused, desperate. That doesn't prove anything. Anyone can fake a recording. I stepped aside and signaled. The lawyer my father trusted stepped onto the stage with the original signed will, and beside him, the retired judge who confirmed its validity. Leah is telling the truth, the judge said calmly. This will was registered and witnessed months before Mr. Malik's passing. The version presented by Sarah was doctored, and I have all the supporting documents to prove it. Sarah's world crumbled in an instant. Security guards moved forward slowly. Her assistant backed away. Investors whispered in disappointment. Reporters scribbled in notebooks or began live broadcasts. This wasn't just a family scandal anymore. It was a public unraveling. I didn't mean for it to go that far, Sarah whispered as she turned to me, eyes brimming with tears. I was scared. Dad always believed in you more. You had his heart. I only had the name. Her voice cracked again. I didn't want to lose everything. I didn't hate her in that moment. Not fully. Maybe I should have. But instead, I just felt tired. You didn't have to lose anything, Sarah. You chose this. You pushed me. That's when the police arrived. I didn't press charges for attempted murder. There was no direct video proof. And part of me just wanted peace. But with the fraud, the forgery, and the manipulation of Dad's will, she had to face the consequences. She was removed from all leadership roles. Her accounts were frozen. She was no longer the face of anything. The Malik Foundation was saved. I didn't take her place. I handed it over to someone more capable, someone who genuinely cared about helping people. I only kept the part of the company Dad left for me. That was all I ever wanted, to protect what was rightfully mine and restore the truth. Zayan stood by me through every step, and somewhere along the way, between the courtroom visits and late-night planning sessions, we grew even closer. He never pushed, never asked for anything in return, but when it was all over, when the storm had passed, he took my hand and said, I'm proud of you, Leah. Not because you won, but because you didn't lose yourself in the fight. I smiled through the tears, because that's what mattered most. The city went back to its rhythm. The headlines faded. People moved on. But I didn't forget. I kept a photo of my father in my office, right beside my window. On some mornings, I'd look at it and whisper, I hope you're proud. And deep down, I knew he was. This wasn't just about inheritance, betrayal, or revenge. It was about becoming who I was, always meant to be, and finally I was free.